It started with small things, an early bedtime here, a headache there, the casual brushing away of my hand when I reached for her under the covers. Subtle at first, a little coldness at night that could have been the result of stress or exhaustion. I told myself not to overthink it. After all, we'd been married nearly 12 years. People get tired. Life gets heavy. But those nights piled up. One became 3, then 10. Then it became routine. Every time I reached out, emotionally, physically, Emma slipped further away. I'd ask, "Hey, you coming to bed soon?" She'd mumble, "You go ahead, I'll be up later." Then she'd settle in on the couch, claiming she fell asleep watching a show. Every night. Like clockwork. It wasn't always like this. Back when we first got married, we couldn't keep our hands off each other. We'd sneak away from dinners with friends just to kiss in the car like teenagers. I remember one night in Tahoe, snowed in, nowhere to go, just us in a warm cabin with cheap wine and thick blankets. She looked at me like I was the only man on earth. That woman hasn't looked at me like that in years. Now, she sleeps with her back to me when she does bother coming to bed. Sometimes she even drags a pillow to the guest room, says I snore too loud. And maybe I do. But I'm not dumb. I know what this is. This snoring excuse is just a wall. I used to try. I'd light candles, make her dinner, text her in the middle of the day just to say I missed her. I even got her flowers one Tuesday, for no reason at all. She smiled, said thanks, then set them on the counter like they were a grocery receipt. Eventually, I stopped trying. You can only knock on a locked door so many times before you realize no one's opening it. So I shifted. Now, I ignore her. Not in a petty, silent treatment kind of way. That's childish. No, I just stopped looking at her like she was the center of my world. I started treating her like a roommate. A polite, distant cohabitant. We have a mortgage together. Shared Amazon accounts. That's it. She notices. I see it in the way she hesitates before speaking. How she lingers in the doorway like she wants to say something but forgets how. She used to be the one needing space. Now she's circling the rooms I've emotionally vacated, trying to figure out where I went. It's a strange feeling. To live with someone, brush your teeth next to them, eat meals across from them, and feel more alone than when you're actually by yourself. I don't know what broke her interest in me. Maybe it was slow. Maybe it was sudden. Maybe it was someone else. I haven't found proof, but the way she guards her phone now, the way she laughs at texts when she thinks I'm not watching, let's just say, it doesn't take a detective. But the worst part isn't the suspicion. It's the indifference, the quiet decay. And now that I've stopped chasing, the silence between us has started to echo. But I'm not chasing anymore. If she wants to talk, she knows where to find me. If she wants to sleep, she knows where her pillow is. Emma was crying in the bathroom again. Not the soft, sad kind of crying that breaks your heart. Hers was different, loud, showy, theatrical, like someone auditioning for sympathy. I stood outside the door, toothbrush in hand, listening to her sobs echo off the tile. I didn't move, didn't ask if she was okay. That used to be my role. The fixer, the comforter, the idiot with open arms. But I've resigned. That morning, she slammed the silverware drawer shut like it had personally offended her. Then she turned to me with red eyes and snapped, "You don't even look at me anymore." I sipped my coffee. "Neither do you." She stormed out of the kitchen, muttering something about how I'd changed. That was rich. This whole mess started because she changed. I just stopped dancing to her tune. Emma had always been good at control, subtle in the early days. A little suggestion here, a quiet nudge there. Then it evolved into emotional currency. Her affection came with conditions. Want dinner together? Meet her emotional checklist. Want a quiet night in? Jump through her approval hoops. Want to feel close, like a husband should with his wife? Well, better hope she's in the mood. And lately, she never was. Now, the new tactic was guilt. She'd mope around the house with a hand pressed to her forehead like a woman in an old drama. Ask if I still loved her, then punish me with silence if I didn't perform the right answer. When I didn't rush to console her crying spells, she cranked up the volume, slammed doors, cried louder. Like grief could be weaponized. I realized something recently. Emma doesn't miss me. She misses control. She's emotional when she's not in power. When I ignore her, she breaks down. But when I tried to love her, to talk to her, to need her, she retreated, cool and dismissive, like a queen displeased with her servant. Funny how now she wants to be noticed. That evening, she tried again. She walked into the living room in a robe, one she hadn't worn in months. The same one she used to wear on Sunday mornings when things between us were good. She sat beside me, laid her hand on my knee, and whispered, "I miss us." I looked at her hand like it belonged to someone else. "You miss control." That stung. She pulled her hand back like I burned her. "You're being cruel," she whispered. "No, I'm being honest. There's a difference." She blinked hard, tears forming fast. "So this is it? You're just giving up?" I gave her a long look. "You gave up a long time ago. I'm just catching up." She didn't cry then. She didn't storm out. She just stared at me, eyes wide, as if she'd seen something that terrified her. Me, maybe. Or the realization that her grip was slipping. And that was the first time I saw fear in her. Not sadness. Not regret. Fear. Because Emma doesn't handle losing well. And now I'm not playing her game. Emma didn't speak to me for 2 days after that. Not a word. Not even the usual passive-aggressive sigh when I left dishes in the sink or tracked in dirt from the garage. She floated around the house like some haunted thing, silent, composed, but watching me like a hawk. When she finally broke the silence, it was strategic. That's Emma. She doesn't make moves out of impulse. She waits, plans, strikes when she thinks you're vulnerable. "You're hurting the girls," she said flatly, standing in the hallway with her arms crossed. "They can feel the tension. We don't have kids." But that didn't matter. She was talking about her nieces. My goddaughters. The ones we babysat once a month, had over for Christmas, spoiled like they were our own. I nodded slowly. "You mean the girls who haven't been over in 3 weeks? Because you told your sister I was having a rough patch?" Her eyes flickered. "Caught. Don't twist things, Jack," she said, tone clipped. "I said we were both going through something. And it's true. You've been distant. Cold." "You mean I've stopped begging?" She flinched, just for a second, then gathered herself. "I'm trying to fix this. You're just punishing me." "No," I said, walking past her toward the kitchen. "I'm just not pretending anymore." That night, she cooked dinner. She never cooks. It was risotto, my favorite. Candles on the table, soft jazz playing from the Bluetooth speaker. I sat down, amused, almost impressed. She poured wine, sat across from me, and for a moment, we looked like a couple again. "I talked to someone," she said, dabbing her napkin at the corner of her mouth. "A therapist." I nearly choked on my food. "You're in therapy?" She nodded. "You think I'm some villain. Maybe I am. But I don't want to lose this. Us. I want to work on myself." She wasn't reaching out. She was regrouping. The risotto, the wine, the jazz, it wasn't romance. It was a campaign. A well-packaged piece offering designed to make me forget she'd spent the last year treating me like furniture. She wanted me to feel nostalgic, sentimental. She wanted me pliable. But I've been down this road. I know a bribe when I taste one. That night, she crawled into bed beside me. No robe. No excuses. She lay on her side, her back to me, waiting. I didn't move. Not out of spite. Not even anger. Just clarity. Emma's version of intimacy had always been performance-based. Conditional. She wanted to be chaste, needed to feel adored, but only on her terms. Now, I was done performing. So I let the silence stretch between us. And just before sleep claimed me, I heard her whisper into the darkness, voice trembling. "You're not the man I married." I opened my eyes and stared at the ceiling. "No, I'm better." The next morning, she tried to act like everything was normal. She slid into the kitchen in that oversized college hoodie she wore when she wanted to look effortlessly cute, like the past 24 hours hadn't happened. She smiled, poured her coffee, even offered to make me eggs, sunny side up, just how I like them. I declined. She stood there for a second, spatula in hand, then slammed it down on the counter with a little too much force. "Fine," she muttered, grabbing her cup and retreating to the living room like a teenager told no. The kitchen filled with that awkward tension only silence can bring. That was her new thing, acting offended when her bait didn't get a bite. Emma has always been more performer than partner. She knows how to twist discomfort into guilt, how to weaponize silence and smiles, how to make her sadness look like your fault. When she feels guilty, she gets angry. When she feels powerless, she plays the victim. If she tripped over a crack in the sidewalk, she'd find a way to blame the cement. She doesn't admit wrong. She reframes it. In her world, we're drifting apart. Not because she stopped trying, but because I stopped reaching across the gap she created. She tells herself the story where she's the heartbroken wife, unloved and unappreciated, instead of what she is, calculating, withdrawn, and now slowly unraveling. But I remember when the shift began. Not a big fight. Not one big betrayal. No drama. Just little absences that started to stretch into chasms. She'd stop kissing me goodnight. Started pulling her hand away if I held it too long. Compliments stopped landing. Her phone never left her side. When I asked, politely, gently, if something was wrong, she gave me a look like I'd just accused her of murder. Why would you even say that? It was gaslighting, but dressed in silk. And now, after months of cold withdrawal, she's surprised to find the ice has spread to my side of the bed. Later that day, she followed me into the garage. That's usually my space, the one place in the house that still feels like mine. She leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed like she was bracing for an impact. I don't get it, she said, voice tight. You're acting like I cheated or something. I didn't flinch. Did you? Her eyes widened, just enough. A flicker. A full heartbeat passed before she blinked. No, she said, louder than necessary. God, Jack, you're unbelievable. I've been watching you for months, Emma. You avoid me like I'm contagious. And now that I don't chase, you're suddenly interested. Explain that. She stepped forward, palms out. I'm trying to fix this. You're the one who's checked out. No, I said calmly. I just stopped performing. You didn't miss me. You missed the performance. The attention. The orbit around you. Her lip trembled. I could see the effort it took not to snap. She turned her face to the side, voice trembling. I don't know what happened to us. I nearly laughed. She knew exactly what happened. She'd stopped being interested in me the minute I stopped being useful. But I didn't say that. I walked past her, picked up my toolbox, and kept walking like the conversation never happened. That night, she didn't sleep in the guest room. She didn't cry. She just sat at the edge of the bed, scrolling through her phone, scrolling and scrolling like the answer to her unraveling life was somewhere on that screen. I didn't say a word. For the first time in our marriage, Emma wasn't calling the shots. And that scared her more than anything. I started locking the door to my office. Not because I was hiding anything. There was nothing to hide. No secret chats, no burner phones, no emails to a mistress. Just a growing list of observations. Notes, reminders, questions. Little things I jotted down in a leather-bound notebook she'd bought me years ago, back when we still exchanged thoughtful gifts. I doubted she even remembered giving it to me. The first few entries were simple. Dates. Odd behavior. Her moods. What she said. What she didn't say. It wasn't paranoia. It was preservation. Emma had built our marriage like a chessboard. Every piece carefully placed, every move choreographed. But now she couldn't see my next play. And that rattled her. One evening she asked, "What are you always doing in there?" I looked up from my notes. Thinking. About what? I smiled. Everything. She lingered in the doorway, watching me, waiting for more. When she didn't get it, she walked away. That's when I knew she felt it. That slow, creeping sensation of losing control. For years, I'd been easy to predict. Affectionate. Reliable. Forgiving. The man who would move mountains if she so much as whispered. Now I was still. And stillness can be more unnerving than rage. I stopped asking about her day. Stopped texting her goodnight if I stayed up late. Stopped showing up with her favorite coffee just because. Little acts, harmless on their own. But together they painted a clear picture. I wasn't hers anymore. She responded with small, calculated shifts, lingering touches, thoughtful dinners, compliments she hadn't used in years. It would have meant something once. But now, it was just noise. One night, I came home to find her dressed up, makeup done, hair curled, sitting on the couch with a glass of wine, pretending to be casual. "Thought we could watch that movie you kept mentioning," she said with a smile. The smile was too sharp, too careful. I sat down beside her, leaving just enough space between us. Halfway through the film, she reached for my hand. I didn't pull away. I didn't hold on either. She curled her fingers around mine. Her hand was warm, familiar. For a second, I almost forgot how cold she'd made our bed for months on end. "You used to be so kind," she whispered. "What happened?" I turned toward her. "You used to want me. What happened?" Her jaw clenched. She stood, walked to the kitchen without a word. That was the last time she tried to touch me for weeks. I didn't say a thing. Just went back to the movie, sipped my water, and made a mental note in that old leather notebook later that night. She's trying. But only because she's afraid I'm gone. Not because she loves me. Not anymore. And that's the cruel part of all this. When someone only reaches for you because they feel you slipping, not because they want to hold you, but because they don't want to be left standing alone. I stopped calling it a marriage in my head. Not out of anger, not even sadness, just accuracy. A marriage requires two people showing up. What we had now was an arrangement. One she signed up for when she stopped sleeping beside me and started sleeping behind excuses. I began making changes. Subtle ones. I separated our bank accounts. I didn't announce it. Just moved the direct deposit, rerouted a few bills, canceled the joint credit card, citing suspicious activity to the bank. They shut it down without question. A week later, she asked why her card was declined at the salon. Fraud alert, I said flatly. Bank caught something weird. You should check your own accounts. She narrowed her eyes, but said nothing. Smart. Next, I changed my passwords. Phone, laptop, even the stupid streaming apps. Petty? Maybe. But I figured if she wanted distance, she could have it in full. Then came the social shift. I stopped showing up to her family dinners. When her sister texted asking if we were okay, I replied, "Why do you ask?" Let the doubt bloom where it needed to. Emma noticed the silence around her start to grow. Her allies were used to me being present, supportive. When I stopped playing that role, they started to wonder what story they hadn't been told. Control, I realized, isn't always about shouting. Sometimes it's about watching someone try to explain your silence and squirm when they can't. One evening, she sat across from me at the dining table, pushing her food around like it had personally offended her. "You've been different," she said finally. I nodded. "I have. Are you seeing someone?" I didn't answer, just raised an eyebrow. She didn't press. She didn't want the answer. She wanted the panic. And I gave her just enough to feel it. Truth is, I wasn't seeing anyone. Not yet. But I had started talking. To old friends. A few new ones. Women who remembered who I used to be before I became someone's afterthought. I wasn't rushing anything. I wasn't reckless. I was just available. Open to something better. That alone was enough to make Emma uneasy. Later that week, I overheard her on the phone with someone. Probably her friend Monica. Her voice tight, whispering in the bathroom like a teenager sneaking a call. "No, he hasn't said anything," she hissed. "But something's off. He's cold. Different. He used to get upset when I pulled away. Now he just doesn't react. I think he might be planning something." She wasn't wrong. I was planning peace. Freedom. A life that didn't feel like walking on eggshells for someone who decided long ago that I wasn't enough unless I was dancing for her. Now the music's off, and she's just standing there, confused, in a room full of silence she created. Emma began spiraling when she realized I wasn't playing defense anymore. She'd always been one move ahead, anticipating how I'd react, baiting me into emotional conversations I never really won. But now, there was nothing to push against. No resistance. Just quiet. And nothing unsettles a manipulator like silence. She started texting me in the middle of the day, something she hadn't done in over a year. "Hope your meeting went well. I'm making dinner tonight. Your favorite. Want to go to the cabin this weekend?" I read them. I didn't respond. Not because I was trying to hurt her, but because I didn't owe her the same attention she once weaponized. It didn't take long before her tone shifted. "Are you ignoring me now? You can't keep acting like a ghost in this house. I'm not the villain here, Jack." And there it was. Not "I'm sorry," not "let's talk," not "what did I do?" Just a desperate attempt to control the story. The more I distanced myself, the more erratic she got. One night, I came home to find the living room completely rearranged. New rug, throw pillows, some abstract painting over the fireplace she claimed to fall in love with. She stood there like a realtor showing a house to a client. "Well," she asked. "It looks fine," I said, setting my keys down. "Is there a reason for the sudden remodel?" She smiled too wide. "Just felt like a change." "You like it, though?" "It's fine." She stared at me like I'd missed a cue in a scene she'd written. That weekend, I told her I was going out of town, didn't say where, didn't say with who. Just packed a bag and left. She asked if it was for work. I shrugged. Just needed a reset. I spent the weekend alone at my cousin's lake house. Peaceful, no phone, no obligation to make someone feel adored while I starved in return. When I came back Sunday night, the house was clean. Like suspiciously clean. New sheets on the bed. Fresh flowers in the kitchen. And Emma waiting in lingerie she hadn't worn since Obama was in office. "Hey," she said, voice sweet, eyes calculating. "Hey, I missed you," she added, stepping closer, fingertips brushing my chest. I let the silence hang. She stepped back, clearly irritated. Seriously, Jack? You're going to ignore me forever? No, I said. Just until I remember why I should care. Her face crumbled. It wasn't anger. Not yet. It was confusion, pure and hollow. She had no map for this. No move left in the old playbook. I was supposed to break by now. Snap, yell, beg for answers. Instead, I walked past her, tossed my bag down, and made myself a drink. She followed me into the kitchen. Are you seeing someone? She asked again. No. Liar. I looked her dead in the eye. If I was, I'd sleep better. She stood there, arms folded, doing her best not to cry. But not out of heartbreak, out of panic, out of losing control of a narrative she thought she owned. What she didn't realize yet was this wasn't a game she could win back. This was me, quietly rewriting the rules. I found the envelope on my desk one morning. No note, just my name written in that familiar looping script, the one she used on anniversary cards back when those still meant something. Inside were printouts, bank statements, hotel receipts, a reservation for 2 at a mountain resort we never visited. And then, the final blow, a photo of me and a woman at a cafe, leaning in close, laughing. A real moment. Only it wasn't what she thought. That woman, a friend, divorced, kind. The first person in months who looked at me like I still existed. No affair, no betrayal, just coffee and conversation. But Emma saw a threat, so she did what she does best. She weaponized the narrative. That night, she waited for me in the kitchen, arms folded, documents neatly stacked beside her. Her face wasn't angry, it was composed, polished. The face of someone stepping into the role of victim with the poise of an actress and the smugness of someone who thinks they're finally one step ahead. Care to explain this? She asked, tapping the photo. I took a sip of water. Sure. Her name's Ava. She listens when I speak. That's it. That's it. Her voice cracked. You've been sneaking off to see her? No. I've been reclaiming my time. She scoffed. You think this is going to make you look good in a courtroom? Ah, there it was. She wasn't heartbroken. She was preparing, lining up her pieces for what she thought was the opening of a legal war. I'm not filing, I said. Not yet. But I'm documenting. Her eyes narrowed. What does that mean? It means I've kept records too, Emma. Every time you vanished to your mom's, but never answered her phone. Every time you locked your phone in the bathroom for hours. Your little gym buddy. Your late night drives to clear your head. I haven't said a word yet. She paled. And unlike you, I added, I don't need lies. Just time. She didn't speak. Just stared, eyes glassy, calculating whether she'd misplayed her hand. You always assumed I wouldn't fight back, I said quietly. You counted on my silence being surrender. And what? Now you're suddenly brave? She snapped. No, I said, stepping past her. I'm free. I left her standing there, surrounded by the artifacts of her own assumptions. She thought a printout and a photo would rattle me, but all she'd done was accelerate the end. I called Ava that night, not for anything romantic, just for clarity. She deserved to know that her name might be dragged through something messy. Her answer was simple. I didn't do anything wrong. Let her try. For the first time in years, I felt like I had someone in my corner. And it wasn't about love or revenge. It was about truth. Emma had made her move. Now it was my turn. The day I met with the lawyer, it rained. Not the dramatic, lightning-splitting kind of storm, just a steady, gray drizzle that blurred the windshield and made the world feel smaller. A whispering sort of weather. It didn't demand attention, just lingered. Like truth, quietly waiting. I pulled into the lot 15 minutes early. Sat in the car with the engine running and my hands on the binder in my lap. It held everything. Every late-night phone log. Every bank charge that didn't add up. Every hotel reservation she thought I wouldn't notice. Even screenshots from our Wi-Fi router logs. Bless the IT guy at work who showed me how to pull those. Emma had always been careful, but not careful enough. I walked into the office, binder tucked under my arm. The receptionist didn't ask many questions, just offered a form and pointed me to the waiting room. It smelled like paper and lemon cleaner. Comfortable in that impersonal kind of way. The lawyer, Rachel Easton, was sharp, not the hand-holding type. She greeted me with a brisk nod, sat across the table, and opened the folder without much fanfare. Tell me what I'm looking at, she said, flipping to the first page. I did. No raised voice. No dramatics. Just facts. When I finished, she sat back in her chair, arms crossed. Most people come in here with pain, she said. You came in with a plan. I've had time to think. And you want to go through with this? I nodded. Not out of hate. Just clarity. She laid out the next steps. Timeline. Filing. Initial asset review. I signed what she placed in front of me, one by one. Each signature felt like closing a drawer that had sat open too long, gathering dust and guilt. I didn't file that day. That wasn't the right move. Instead, I went home and made dinner. Emma was already there, barefoot in the kitchen, looking like she hadn't moved from the bar stool in hours. She asked how my day was. I told her it was productive. She didn't ask what I did. She never does anymore. We ate in near silence. I asked about her mom. She asked if I needed anything from the store. Polite. Shallow. Like strangers at a dinner party who just happened to share a mortgage. After we ate, she lingered at the table. Are we okay? She asked suddenly. Sure, I said, sipping my wine. It wasn't a lie. We were okay. Because I was leaving. And she just didn't know it yet. That weekend, I met with a realtor. A guy my brother used to play hockey with. Trusted, quiet. We met in a corner booth at a cafe 2 towns over. I didn't wear my wedding ring. Didn't bring my notebook. Just asked questions about the market. About options. About separate properties. I wasn't committing yet. Just collecting puzzle pieces. Back home, Emma tried again. Texts during the day. Home-cooked meals. Even music. Soft jazz playing through the speakers like we were a couple who did things like slow dance in the kitchen. She was trying to resurrect something she'd buried with her own hands. One night, I came home late. I had no excuse. Didn't offer one. She was waiting in the bedroom, curled in the chair by the window, knees to her chest. You're really done with me, aren't you? I stood in the doorway for a second longer than necessary, then walked to my dresser and started taking off my watch, my belt, emptying my pockets one by one. She didn't repeat the question, because when someone asks that question, they already know. I served the papers on a Wednesday, not in some dramatic showdown. No yelling, no suitcase flung down the stairs. I just left them on the kitchen counter under a glass of water, something steady to keep them from curling up under the air vent. I want to work like it was any other day. Emma called 23 minutes after she found them. I let it ring. A minute later, a text. You can't be serious. No response. Then another. You said you weren't angry. She wasn't wrong. I wasn't angry. But I was done. When I got home that night, she was sitting at the kitchen table, papers spread out, eyes swollen. She didn't cry while I was there. Emma always performed best for an audience. But this time there was no script left. You really want to throw this away? She asked. No, I said. You already did. I'm just finishing the paperwork. You're not even going to talk to me about it. I looked at her. Really looked. This woman who once felt like home now just looked like a cautionary tale I'd almost ignored. I tried, Emma. You slept on the couch every time I reached for you. You gave affection like it came with a receipt. You stopped being in love with me and started treating me like a subscription you forgot to cancel. She didn't deny it. Just stared at her lap. I kept going, not out of spite, but because this needed to be said. You pulled away, emotionally, physically, quietly. And when I stopped chasing, you panicked. Not because you missed me, but because you missed being in control. She looked up at that. Hit a nerve. You're twisting things. No, I said. I'm just finally saying them out loud. The next few weeks passed like fog. The legal process moved quickly, faster than she expected. I think she assumed I'd cave once the logistics hit. Selling the house. Dividing assets. Untangling shared history. But I didn't. Turns out, when you've been emotionally alone for long enough, the paperwork just feels like formalities. I kept the truck. She kept the dining set. I let her have the record collection. I stopped listening to music the day she stopped dancing in the kitchen anyway. She moved into a condo near her sister's. I stayed with a friend for a while until I signed the lease on a small 2-bedroom with light in the mornings and quiet at night. The silence wasn't heavy anymore. It was clean. I still think about her sometimes, not with bitterness. Just as a reminder of what happens when love becomes a performance and partnership becomes a scoreboard. People always ask if I'm dating again. I'm not. Not because I'm afraid. Just because peace is underrated. One night, months later, I found her name in my inbox. Just one line. I didn't know what I had. I didn't reply. Some messages are meant to echo, unanswered.